In today's class, we'll see what are arrays and why do we need arrays and how we do basic operations on arrays. So by far, like so far, you must have known like what are instance variables, what are instance variables you might not be knowing. So what are the primitive data types and what are reference data types. So let's just briefly go through what are primitive and what are reference data types, and then we'll try to understand why we need arrays. So for let's say that everything what we do in programming has a certain reason, right? So by let's say if I want to store a student's a database or something like that. So in SQL we have different kinds of data types. Like we have varchar, we have number, we have date. So what are we trying to do? So we are just trying to say that this particular data is of this particular data type. So marks of a student would be of decimal data type. A name of the student would be having some characters, and then address would be would be again having some characters, and a date type would be something like it would be a date. So every data is corresponds to some data type, and by a programming language needs to know how what data type is required, because every data type has a certain characteristics or features. For example, in Java, so what are the various primitive data types? So we have 8 primitive data types in Java. So 8 primitive data types we have short, then we have int, we have long. So these three are used to store the whole numbers, and then to store the decimal numbers we have float, and then we have decimal. Then these are apart from these we have Boolean, which actually is required to which helps in storing logical values. Logical values are true or false, and then we have char. Okay, so char, int, float, boolean, and then we have byte also. Okay, so all these 4 different data types, all of these they are taking certain different. You can say the size of the data is different. For example, short takes 2 bytes to store. Int takes 4 bytes. So for every programming language, it's the size might vary. In C++, like what we are talking about Java primitive data types, right? So if you are working in C++ language or C Sharp, it might be different. So in C++, character is stored in 1 byte, but in Java, character is stored in 2 bytes. So you have to actually take care of this. Then long takes again 8 bytes to store. Float takes 4, and double takes double takes 8 bytes. Byte takes, as the name, 1 byte. Boolean, it is not defined how many bytes it takes, but it stores values true and false. So every data type in Java has a fixed length, you would say. So whenever we are writing a statement, whenever we are declaring, so what is meant by declaration of a variable? Whenever we are declaring, that means we are defining the data type for that data. For example, I want to declare an age. So I want to create a variable which is going to store the age of a person, right? And I want to store it as int. Why I want to store it in first? Age cannot be, so let's say age can be in years only. I don't want to include decimal. So what are the whole numbers that are can be used? It can be short, it can be int, it can be long. In fact, I can use short also. So short is basically using 2 bytes, and we already seen in previous classes like what does 2 bytes means? 2 bytes means 16 bits, right? So 16 bits, every bit can have how many values? It can have two values, either 0 or 1. So your in your memory, it would be something like every short value would be something like this. So short takes 2 bytes, that is equivalent to 16 bits. So these are 16 bits, right? And 16, every bit, this particular bit can take either 0 or 1, right? So what is the maximum value which can be stored here? So we already seen in previous classes, like 0 in binary is stored as 0, 1 is as 1, 2 as 1 0, 3 as 1 1, and 4 as you can say, so this is 0 0, I would say 0 1, 4 as 1 0 0, right? So if you see here, if I am using two bits, so how many combinations I can store? I can store 4 combinations, right? So it could be 0 0, it could be 0 1, 1 0, and 1 1. 4 combinations means 2 raised to power 2 combinations I can make, right? So 2 is basically the number of bytes. So let's say I want to, for 3 bytes, how many combinations could be there? So 101, can say 6 is 110, 7 is 111. So if I'm using 3 bytes, 3 bits, so these are the combinations that I can make. So I can make again with 3 bits, I can make 8 combinations, and those would be 2 raised to power 3, right? So, and if I'm taking using 2 bits, then what is the range of the values which can be stored? The maximum value which I can store is 3, right? So it is 0, 1, 2, 3. So the maximum value is, you can say, is from 0 to, you can say, I can 2 raised to power 2 minus 1, right? Similarly, if I'm using 3 bits, so the range of values which I can store is 0 to 2 raised to power 3 minus 1. So here I am storing from 0 to 7, and 7 is 8 minus 1, right? So it is 2 raised to power 3 minus 1. So we can always generalize this. So for you can say n bits can store 2 raised to power n combinations, right? And the max value for n bits of combination is 2 raised to power n minus 1. So the positive numbers are 0 to 2 raised to power n minus 1. So if I have 4 bits, right? I'm talking about 4 bits. So what is the maximum range which I can use? What is the maximum integer value which I can store in 4 bits? So it would be a 2 raised to power 4 minus 1. So which is equal to 15, right? Okay. So now for our primitive data type, so as we have seen that there is a certain range or you can say a fixed size for that particular data type. So for integer, Java is using 4 bytes. So 4 bytes is equivalent to, so this is equivalent to 16 bits, right? So what is the maximum integer value which can be stored in if I declare a variable with int? So if I say int x, so I'm declaring the variable and I'm saying that it stores, so whatever the value, it will be stored in 4 bytes, that is 16 bits. So what is the maximum integer value which can be stored here? So it would be 2 raised to power 16 minus 1. Okay. Okay, so we can always find out what is the maximum range of that particular primitive data type. So whenever we are writing something like this, we are declaring. This is called declaration of a variable, right? So when we write this, 4 bytes of memory are reserved for this particular variable. So whatever value we are going to assign to x, that would be stored in those in that particular memory location. So what happens when compiler sees this particular code or this particular line in x? So what it does, it stores, or it saves, you can say, 4 bytes in stack. So what we are talking, we are talking about primitive data types. So all the primitive data types, are stored in stack. So what is actually stack? So stack in Java, or you can say in computer, every data is basically stored in memory, right? So whatever we are doing, we are doing in memory. In memory, there are different kinds of data structures. So we have a data structure. So what is a data structure? It is the representation of data in memory. What I'm trying to say, when I say like stack means it's, you can say there are different kinds of data structures. We have arrays, then we have stacks, we have linked list, then we have heap, trees. So what is exactly all these data structures? And Java use stacks and heaps for storing primitive data types and reference data types. Okay. So what is exactly all these data structures? So it is a represent how data is actually stored. So for example, if you are creating arrays, arrays basically stored all similar kind of data. So all the homogeneous elements are stored at one place in arrays. Stack is basically like that, like if you are storing some data type in stack, some data in stack, it's just like a stack of plates or stack of books. So you insert on top of it and you remove from top of it, right? So stack is also called LIFO, last in first out. So I don't want to get into the details of how stack works. It's, you can say it's a kind of a memory management, a way of how memory is managed in Java or any other language. So in Java, primitive data types are stored on stack. Primitive data types are stored on stack. Okay. So when I'm saying int x, this statement would reserve 4 bytes in the stack. So here there would be 4 bytes. Here would be 4 bytes that would be stored inside this. So let me just, okay. So there would be 1, 2, you can 3 or 4. Okay. So there would be every cell has a memory address. In computer, you can say every cell has a memory address. So your memory is basically in computers, when we study memory management by your operating system, we saw that the whole memory is basically divided into cells like this. So you can say, you can see it is like a table. So every table has two things associated with it. It has a value and it has an address. Okay. So when you assign a variable like this, so it has a value. If I say x is equal to 0, so 0 would be a value and address would be some hexadecimal value like this. So address would be something like, um, something like, let's say, A, B, X, no, A, B, C, F, 3, 2, 3. So basically it's a hexadecimal number, right? So every cell is referenced by this particular address. So how your program is going to read the data is by referencing to this particular memory address, and this is what is actually stored in your variables, right? So every variable, it is that particular address would be accessed by X, and this particular memory address would hold the value whatever is being assigned to that variable. So every cell has address and certain value. If you are saying that I am storing integers, so there would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So there would be say 4 locations. There would be actually 4 locations that would be saved by or preserved by the compiler to store the value of x. So it would be stored something like, you can say 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Right? So it would be stored something like this. So there would be 16 bits that would be preserved for int x is equal to 0. Right? Is this clear? And this would be accessed by the address which is referenced by this variable, and in actually your operating system creates a table which maps the address with the value. So when it tries to access this particular address, it will give the value. You can read the value at particular address as 0. So this is what we actually meant by declaring. Then what is meant by initializing? A variable. Initializing means whenever you are providing an initial value to any variable. So here we say, if I just write int x, then that means 4 bytes of memory is preserved. When I say int x is equal to 0, that means at this particular address, 0 value is stored. It is initialized. That initialize means the first value that has been assigned to that variable. Okay. Is this clear? Then we have assignment. So what assignment means? Assignment means this is declaration. This is declaration plus initialization. Then now after during the program I change this value to 6 or something. So this is called assignment. When I am using the assignment operator to change the value of that particular variable, this is called assignment, right? So there is a difference between declarations plus initialization and simple assignment. So you would say assignment and initialization is just the same. Initialization is done only once, right? And assignment is means like you can give that value any number of times. So you can assign x is equal to 6, you can say x is equal to 10, then you are assigning a different value to that variable, right? So in Java, when you create arrays, right, automatically all the values are assigned or initialized as 0. So sometimes Java do give automatically gives initial value. So we'll see um, what scenario it automatically gives an initial value. But most of the time when you are creating local variables, you have to give initial values to your local variables, right? Now we have seen what is primitive data type and how it is basically stored in the memory. Now let's say here I'm just storing the age of one person's int age I'm storing, right? So it's gonna hold just one value. If I say age is equal to 35, so it's gonna hold just one value. Now I want to store the let's say age of all people attending my classes, right? All students attending classes, right? So if there are 10 students, so what are options I have? Maybe I have to create, I can create 10 variables. Int age 1 is equal to, let's say 25. Int age 2 is equal to 40 or something. So I have to actually create 10 variables to store those values. So don't you think it's gonna be a little bit cumbersome? It is going to be cumbersome, right? So tomorrow, if it grows to the class goes to 100, so am I going to create 100 variables to hold all the ages? No, I won't be doing. So in programming, there is a data structure called arrays, which acts as a placeholder to store homogeneous data types. Homogeneous data types. Okay. So what are arrays? Arrays is basically a placeholder. So I can say array of books. I can say array of books, array of age, right? So array of you can say schools, right? So what the data type I'm storing, that data type would be similar for all these. So what is array? It's basically just, you can say, a collection or a group of same type of items. So I can have array of books, age, but I cannot have array of books and age, or I cannot say array of you can say array of books and pencils. I cannot say like this is wrong, because here the data type, what I'm storing, the item that I'm storing is different, and arrays only store similar data types. It has to be similar. Similar data types means whatever I'm storing, it should have the same properties. Same properties means if it is, if books is in a string, or let's say if books is an integer, then this particular array can store only integers. So how to declare the array of let's say age or age, right? So I would say int square brackets age. So this declares that this is a declaration of an array. Declaration. So it says that age can store n number of ages, right? So now when I'm writing the age, I also say arrays have fixed length. Arrays have fixed length means it's not like I can I can store array of books of unlimited length or a length which is not defined. Array has fixed length which needs to be defined at the time of declaration. Okay. So what we have to say, whenever we are declaring an array, we need to give the data type which is going to hold. Plus, I need to tell them how many similar kind of items I would be storing in this particular array. So if I want to store, let's say a age of 10 people, so I would say int age is equal to new int, and I would give the size as 10. Right? So this, what it does, as int x was storing 4 bytes, preserving 4 bytes of memory, when I declare an array of integers and the size of the array is 10, then how much bytes it is preserving? It is preserving 10 into 4, which is equal to 40 bytes. So 40 bytes would be stored or preserved to hold these 10 values. Okay. So int is basically array is holding similar data types and it is going to preserve 40 bytes. Now let's say I want to create an array of short, right? Short is going to take, so I want to store, let's say some kind of ID. So I would say I want to store 5 IDs. Short IDs is equal to new short, and I say 5. Okay. So how many bytes are stored? How much memory is going to be reserved for this? Remembering every short takes 2 bytes. So 10 bytes would be preserved for short. So my compiler needs to know how many spaces in the memory I want to preserve. So when you run the program, that particular memory would be used to store or the values actually which are being used, right? So we are declaring the array and preserving. So is my job finished? No, my job is not finished. My job is not done yet. I need to give values also to this this array, right? So how to access the various elements? So if there are 10 people whose ages I have stored, so I need to give the value. So let's say in my class I have people with these ages 23, 34, 21, 45, 30, 45, 21, 21. So and so on and so forth. So I need to store all these values in this array. So I want to assign the values, right? So how can I access those elements? So let's say the first element has value 23. So how can I access the first element? The first element, all the elements of the array are accessed by their indexes. Okay. So if I want to access the first element, I would be writing age followed by their index. So the first element has an index 0. It's not like our counting. In like when we do counting, we say our counting starts from this is the first item, second item, third item. But in programming language, in Java and most of the programming language, the array indexes, the first item has an index 0. So if I want to store 23, so I would say age 0 is equal to 23 and age 1 is equal to 34. Age 2 is equal to 21, so on and so forth. So I would be assigning all these values, and this is initialization also and assignment also, right? So If I'm first time I'm assigning, so then it is also initialization, but I can always change the values, right? So on and so forth, I can put the values in the array. So now my array is done. It is complete. It can be accessed by these you can say reference variables. So here what I'm doing, I'm creating an array of 10. So let's see how arrays are stored in the memory. So in the memory, we have a stack which stores all the primitive data types, right? Now there is another area in the memory which is called heap. Heap is basically heap is used to store reference variables, and array are called reference variables. Why array are called reference variables? If you see here, there is just one variable age, right? Which is basically used to store all these elements. Age, any array is basically a reference variable because this particular variable is used to refer to the you can say to refer to all the elements of the array, right? So what it basically holds when you create an array of you can say of 10 integers. So what happens on the stack, a reference variable is created with this particular value. A reference variable with this age is created in the stack. So this is your stack and this is your heap. So, and this particular age is basically referencing to 10 elements in the heap. So this is one, and it actually addresses to the first element of the array. So you have 10 elements stored in the heap. So the actual value is stored in the heap, but the reference variable is stored on the stack. So this is also taking some value. Every reference variable takes 4 bytes, and instead of storing actual value, it stores address of data value. Okay, so it can be actually addresses also, it can be address of data value. So it reference variables means it doesn't hold actual data. Like int x, it was holding actual data. So how int x is stored? If I say int is x, so here this would be storing 4, and this would be referenced by x, right? Here age would be storing the address to the first element in the heap. So all these are elements, right? There are all the 10 elements. So first element data value was 23, second was 21, third was 21, right? And age, let's say the first, because every cell has an address. So this is a cell. So this is a memory address. It must be having a memory address. So assuming let the address be 1000. So the value for this particular reference variable would be 1000. So is 1000 the actual data? No, 1000 is not the actual data. 1000 is the address of the actual data. So reference variables does not hold the data value. It holds the address of the data value. This is the difference between a reference variable type and the primitive data type. So primitive data type, they hold the actual value. Reference data type, they don't hold. They hold the address of the actual value. So when we are declaring an array, we are reserving a space. How many bytes actually total space? Tell me. In the memory, when I say int age is equal to new 10, how many total number of bytes are utilized in the memory. Okay, let me explain. So we have declared how many variables? 10 variables, right? 10 integers means 40 bytes, right? So for data, 40 bytes would be reserved in heap, right? So it would be here, there would be 40 bytes, they would be reserved, right? Now to hold this value, we have a reference variable as well, right? This is a reference variable, age reference variable. So this also holds a value, takes some memory. As I've told you, every reference variable takes 4 bytes. So there would be for reference variable, to hold that reference variable, there would be 4 more bytes, right, in stack. So total 40 plus 4 bytes would be reserved in the memory. So you would say 4 bytes for the reference variable would be reserved in the stack and 40 bytes would be reserved in the heap. How reference variable is taking memory? See, the data is taking memory, that is for 40 bytes. We know there are 10 integers that are going to take space. So there are 40 bytes here. But they are actually referenced by another variable which is basically age, right? Age is a placeholder. It's again a variable which is on the stack, and every reference variable takes 4 bytes and it holds the value which is an address to the first element of the array. So this is also taking 4 bytes, right? So total is 40 bytes for the data value and 4 bytes for the reference variable in the stack. Now all these 10 variables, there are 10 variables. The indexes would range from 0 to 9. So my first array or first item in the array or first element in an array would have the index age 0. So my 0th student would have this particular age, and my last student. So how can I access the last element? So here the first has a 23, so I would write here 23. And let's say this one is the last. So this is basically, let's say 40. So which index, how can I access the last element? So last element would be, what would be the index? The last index would be 9. So my last age 9 is equal to 40. Similarly, you can say age 1, age 2, age 3 up till age 9. So in total there would be 10 elements, but the indexes would range from 0 to 9. So if I have assume there are 50 elements in an array, how would you access 45th element? So let's say the name of an array is, I'm declaring an integer array. Let's say score, right? So score is equal to new int 50. So how would I access 45th element? I want to change the score of 45th element to let's say 85. So what statement would I write? Okay, so I would write score 44 is equal to 85, right? Because I'm accessing 45th element. If first element is accessed has an index of 0, so 45th element would have an index of 44. So score 44 is equal to 85. So let's try to write a program and summarize whatever we have written here. Okay, so now I want to actually tell you how to manage your Eclipse. So everybody is aware of Eclipse environment. So when you start your Eclipse, there are a lot of things you need to create, and your program, or you can say your workspace, will become little messy. So you need to organize your programs. So in Eclipse, we have work sets. So working sets. So we have working sets. Then we have projects. In projects, we create packages, and in packages, we create classes. Okay. So we have in Eclipse, we create working sets. So working sets means it's a kind of a different workspace. So let's say when I'm giving a class demo, I want those set of programs or those set of classes in a different workspace. Maybe when I'm doing some practice programs, I want to put that in a different workspace, right? Then you create a project. Project means let's say that you want to write all your classes related to mortgage calculator into one project, right? Your mortgage calculator is your project. Maybe tomorrow Verizon Wireless is your project. So a project contains various packages and the class related to that particular project. Packages means packages, as you have already seen. So it's a collection of classes, and to corresponding to every package, Java actually creates a corresponding directory structure. So when we'll see, like when I create a particular package, how Java is gonna create a corresponding directory structure to where it puts all the classes there, right? So classes is, you can say, is the basic entity in all object oriented programming. So in all object oriented programming, every, you can say, how we define a particular element is defined in a class, in the sense that here we have integer types, right? We have basic types, integer, float, double. These kind of these are basic data types. I can create my own data types. Like I can create an, as we say, array of books, array of persons, array of students. So I can define, give definition to, or you can say I can create my own complex data types. As we create complex data types in SQL, we can create complex data types in, customized data types in my own language. And those customized data types, you can say they are called classes, or basically classes are blueprints of your own customized data types, or blueprint of real world entities. So you don't define, you don't talk to each other in the terms of X and Y. You talk to each other in the terms of, student, an instructor, a class, a course, right? So classes are used to define those real world entities. So let's see how to organize this. So first we need to create a working set. So it's not necessary that you can actually, in Eclipse, you can simply go and say new and create a project or create a class or whatever. But you need to organize everything. So first what I'll do, I'll create a Java working set, right? And let's say I want to give this working set as say examples 2030. So I'm just creating a working set examples 2030, and they finish. I don't want to actually include any. These are the projects I have already created. Maybe I want to add class examples or something, or I can remove also. Okay, so this is my working set. Then in this working set, I want to create a new project. So let's say I want to create a new project. And this project I want to give the name as data structures. Okay. And you can say finish. So that particular project is added to your working set. Now, if you expand this, when you create a project, it automatically creates some kind of folder kind of thing, or you can say a directory structure. So when you start your Eclipse, it always asks you where do you want to store. So in my machine, all all my projects basically it is stored in there are actually 2-3 workspaces here, so I'm just trying to find out which workspace I'm currently working. So if you see here in my when I started the Eclipse, although I have been using Eclipse for long, so my workspace has been defined to this particular address, C Shilpi SkyDrive Documents Workspace. In Workspace, when I created the data structure project, it automatically created a data structure folder here. And if you double click on data structure folder, it actually creates some set of files, and these files are there where SRC would actually contain all the Java classes you would be writing. So your code would be created here. So when I'll create a class, so let's create a class here. So in the project, so first let's create a package because I want to club the classes. So I would say new package, and generally what you do, packages are being given the reverse name of your application. So let's say I want to, I'm creating an application called mortgagecalculator.com. I'm working on this. So it's basically the reverse domain of your company. So I would be writing something like com.mortgagecalculator. And if I'm working from Whitebox QA, so I would be writing something like whiteboxqa.com. Why do we create a reverse domain of this? Because I want to create a package which is unique throughout. So URLs are unique, right? So the same URL, if you write in reverse order, that also would be unique, right? So whatever I'm classes or I'm directory structure I'm going to define here, that would be unique throughout. So this is the practice which is used in the industry to give names to your packages. So com.whiteboxqa, and I say finish. So if you see in source, this particular package has been created. So let's see what has been created here. In source, if you see, there is a com folder. In com, there is another whiteboxqa folder. Now in this folder, I would like, let's say I want to add some class. So I would be adding a class here. I'll right click here and say new class, and I would give the name of the class. So I would say array examples. Okay. And in this class, I don't want to write a main method, and I would say just finish. Right. So when I write array examples.java, Eclipse automatically created a template kind of thing to write my own program. So again, corresponding to the directory, if you see here, the array examples.java is being created. So if you see my directory structure, this is the workspace I defined in the Eclipse. Data structure is the name of the project, and source is a predefined, standard folder which is in there in data structures, and com.whiteboxqa is the package name. In this particular package, my Java class is created. Whenever whenever you are adding you can say without creating a package, whenever you are creating a class, it creates a default package and adds it to the class. So it creates a package, but there won't be any name to that package. And it's not a good practice to add classes to a default package. You should always put classes into a named package. By name package, so tomorrow when let's say in all your code needs to be reusable. You won't be writing code for yourself. Your code might be, you are a QA tester, so your code would be used by another QA tester. It would be used by a QA lead or a manager. You need to reuse that code. So how would they access your code? They would be accessing your code using the class files that Java actually creates. So they need to know the package. They need to know. So you need to actually add all your classes to the package, so that tomorrow if you are writing 5 classes, you can actually roll out the particular package and give the whole package to the other person. Yes, excellent. Mamta, workspace is physical and working set is logical. Satyadevi saying hi, close the package. So you close the package so you can actually open it, right? So you can say file, open, how did you close the package? Did you close the project?